Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today I wanted to talk to you about the X1 Nano 1 year after I have used it as my primary work laptop. Now, if you haven't seen everything that I have to say about the X1 Nano already, I have a pretty comprehensive suite of videos, and I'll leave the link right here on where you can see everything from benchmarking to heat tests with infrared cameras, monitor setups, all sorts of really good information. But how has it fared after essentially 365 days at this point? Because I bought this in February of 2021. And here are some of the initial conclusions that I have. The first thing that I did want to do is physically show you any wear that has occurred on the device. It goes in and out of bags several times a day, is obviously transported from my home to my workplace, and I have done nothing special with this machine. I occasionally clean it with some spray-on alcohol that dries up pretty quick, but other than that, I have not babysat it, I have not worried about it, I have chucked it around. It has very, very, very much been treated exactly like a ThinkPad should be. So with the touchscreen model, you do get this checkered kind of carbon fiber look to it, and I think that actually does help hide a fair bit of imperfections that it could get over time. So in this light right here that we've got coming down here and here, it looks pretty good, and if we tilt it up, we can see some essentially grunge marks from palms and sweat over time, and obviously, a lot of that you can clean out. I only did a quick clean before the video because I didn't want it to look sanitized to the point where it wouldn't be believable. And I think there might be one scratch right there, which is very, very difficult to see. On the bottom, we have the usual fingerprint magnetry happening where you'd expect it to. But interestingly enough, no scratches that I can see. Just a few fingerprint marks from it being carried a lot. And I'll be getting into that because it has been indeed carried a lot. On the inside of the device, I don't really have any wear to truly speak of. The trackpad hasn't developed any glossy centers yet. Neither has the palm rest areas. Thankfully, I got that sticker off fast enough so there isn't any residue left over from that. And the keyboard doesn't have shiny keys at 1 year's use. My track point is looking a little dirty, but obviously that can easily be replaced by pulling it off and putting a new one on. No big deal there. And no scratches or imperfections to report on the screen. So in terms of physical durability, I have zero complaints, and it definitely has earned the right to carry that ThinkPad branding. Now, one of the things that we do need to talk about is the I/O on this, because you have no I/O on this side, of course, and it's all over here. You have two Thunderbolt 4 ports and a headphone microphone combo jack, and that is it. And you know what? That's all I've needed. I'm a little bit shocked to say that, to be brutally honest with you. I thought that not having a full-size USB port or full-size HDMI like the X1 Carbon does would be a massive deal breaker, but it hasn't. I have two dongles I carry with me in my backpack. One is a USB Type-C that splits off into HDMI and full USB 3. The other is literally just a row of, I think, 3 USB ports and then a network port that sticks out the bottom. I've also got the docking station, which you've seen in a previous video, which I'll leave a link to right up there. And I have not been in a situation where I've been thinking, gee, I don't have what I need to plug into this thing. And it has to do with what this is really designed for. And to me, what this is truly designed for is ultimate portability and power. And if those are the only two things you're balancing, this is a no-brainer to me. Not having full-size USB will, for some people, be a deal breaker, but if you're only using it occasionally and a lot of what you're doing is on the cloud or networking, then you're not plugging in stuff into laptops as much as you would normally. If you're a system admin, you're probably not going to want an X1 Nano. But if you're like me, who is physically going in and out of spaces all the time throughout the day, creating documentation, troubleshooting things, I need something that I can just grab from my workspace and take it somewhere, and I don't have to be like, oh, I don't want to take the heavy laptop. Like this is a couple pieces of paper. I have clipboards at work that are heavier than this thing, and that really, really does sell it. Until you pick one of these things up and hold it in the corner of your hand and not get tired of holding it by the corner, then you just don't understand what this thing is actually capable of. The idea of essentially walking around with it like this indefinitely in your workspace with your finger on the track point moving it around, or if you prefer the trackpad, it's there too if you really need it. Like, it's just brilliant. And you can't really do that with a lot of other computers. Just hold it in one hand. And that has to do with the weight. It's that magical number, and that's been documented in several books and studies being the perfect weight for a laptop. They were talking about that back in the X300 days. Having a Windows Hello infrared camera up here and the fingerprint sensor, especially during COVID, has been a lifesaver. This thing is exceptionally fast to log into, and that is really important because this thing detects whether or not you are physically in front of it. And if you're wearing a mask, that obviously, impacts its ability to detect. So having this fingerprint reader essentially as a backup that works essentially just as quickly as everything else is really, really important. I cannot stress that. I am very happy to see that the X1 Nano Gen 2 is getting a communications bar along here, which involves better microphones and a better full HD web camera. 720p at the beginning of the pandemic, before work from home was a real contender, wasn't important. Now it is. And I have to admit that I do have another laptop I keep in service that does have a higher quality web camera. So depending on what kind of conferencing I might be doing at the time, there are times where this unfortunately doesn't get used because 720p just it just doesn't work sometimes. You have to have really, really good lighting to kind of overcome that smaller sensor. And I'm really, really excited to see the Gen 2 is addressing probably one of the biggest gripes that some people will have. Now, battery life and performance. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about that because to me, this is one of the most amazing things. So I have here a battery report. I have charged and cycled this battery 113 times over the year that I've owned it. And if you're curious, the design capacity, the full design capacity, according to Windows of this battery, is 48,280 milliwatt hours. Over 113 full charges and discharges. The capacity that it is currently sitting at is 48.39 watt hours. So what does that all mean? Well, it means that over the course of 113 charges, the thing is still charging at its full design capacity. And it has done exceptionally well. In terms of how much battery life I'm getting on average is about 7 to 8 hours, and that's because I'm pushing this thing fairly hard. It's not being used sipping the battery life, so some of the, astronomical claims that Lenovo will publish where everything is turned off and like the lowest brightness or whatever, you're obviously not going to get those, but I think most people understand that expectation is probably not realistic. However, easily getting through my day with juice to spare, very often I will get the battery down to 50% on an 8-hour day and still be perfectly fine. The only time where that changes, of course, if I have days where I have to video conference without being plugged in. That's obviously going to impact battery life. There's no way around that. The drain is just really, really high on those style of applications where you have lots of videos being rendered if people have their cameras on, all of that good stuff. So all in all, ladies and gentlemen, the X1 Nano is simply a fantastic little computer. I definitely do not regret purchasing it. it's a fantastic and great device. I think the Gen 2 is going to continue that really excellent legacy. I'm happy to see the X1 Carbon is now getting nicer screens, as well as a 16:10 aspect ratio, which means that the new Carbon will do a good job to compete against this. However, I think there will still be a desirable niche for those people that simply want the light and the powerful and the durable computer. To me, the X1 Nano is going to be all of those things for a good long while. Thank you so much for tuning in to this. I hope that you've enjoyed my perspective on the X1 Nano after 1 year of owning this device. Just to be perfectly clear, I purchased this device with my own money. So this was something that I wanted. I went out and I bought it. It was not sponsored. It was not sent to me or anything like that. If you know this channel, I always disclose any relationships that I do have with any company. If you are looking to get a Nano for yourself, see if there's a good sale on. I'll leave some links in the description down below where you can make those purchases. And if you do use any of those links, I do get a small percentage kickback that goes directly to supporting this channel. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section down below, and I would be happy to answer them. And as always, please consider doing the big four. Please like the video, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, so the next time I give you an update on the X1 Nano or any other ThinkPad, you'll be the first to know about it. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.